Hello and live from the infamous Murph's pub. I'm Jeremy Taylor and welcome to this week's Wednesday Night Undressed, the podcast that reaches into the wobbly places other podcasts dare and venture. And I'd like, if I might, to tell you a little story about an event that happened recently right here in this bar. It was early one Wednesday night, and as a naked Ivo Ivanov arrived in Murph's bar to be a panelist on the weekly Naked podcast, a lady explains to her friends at the bar, "But look, he's naked." He turned to her and replied, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." The bartender asked him, "But what if she reports you?" Ivo replied, "I'll make her an offer she can't refuse." Anyway, he goes on, "She doesn't understand," he says. "She could have had class. She could have been a contender." The lady turns to her friend and says, "Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore." And with that, Ivo smiles his special smile and says, "Here's looking at you, kid. Go ahead and make my day." Well, that's a clue to the first question on this week's podcast. Yes, I'd like to welcome Alena, Jane, Chris. Who else have we got? Fernando is here. Andrei's here. Kath's here. Lewis is here. Yes, I remembered you, Lewis.
Nice.
And we have our chief engineers back with us. And what else? Well, so what was so special about that intro I just did? See if anybody can guess. Now, last time I did one of these weird things, Alena got it.
It was all the literature quotes?
No, they're film quotes.
Evil was naked.
Well, there was Evo.
Happens a lot.
They're film quotes. Okay, not bad. Getting there. That's not actually the answer.
Well, then somebody else hop in.
Great catchphrases. They're well known.
They are the top 10 most quoted lines from films.
I see.
With,
Hence
frankly, my dear,
why
I
I knew
don't
it.
give a damn. You won as the most quoted film. Quoted film thing.
Andrei,
No,
as
not
you're
that.
cruising around the halls in high school,
Gone with Winnie.
how many times a
He is
day do
looking
you
at
hear
you, kid,
someone
discussing
say,
like that.
"Frankly, my dear, I
Yeah.
don't give a damn"?
0 times.
Okay.
So we can start with the first question is, should Joe Rogan be fired from Spotify? I'd like to ask Andrei what he thinks.
I didn't know he had a podcast. I just thought he was like a UFC dude. I knew who he was because of that. And then, I don't know. I don't really have an answer because I didn't know he had a podcast until in the car.
Yeah. And by the way, I got the hook now. So it's been ages. Like I saw some of the, the content, but I wasn't follow Joe Rogan for a long time. And
Yeah.
I heard I think the latest episode, and it's beautiful. There is it feels like a very educative episode, believe it or not, and I recommend everybody to really listen to that. I think he's self-correcting himself.
Really?
Yes. No joke, but I mean, disregarding of it,
Oh, am I supposed to?
Yes, you're supposed to, yes.
I think it'd be nice if you were fired from Spotify just because I don't like talking to dudes at bars about Joe Rogan. So I just think it'd be great to not meet somebody in their mid-20s and have them immediately bring up Joe Rogan. It would be good for me personally, in a selfish way.
Sort
Yeah.
of vomit Joe Rogan all over the place.
Yeah, just did you see on Joe Rogan last night, Jordan Peterson and lobsters and everything's hierarchical? And women have to be below men. Jordan Peterson said it on Joe Rogan. Because lobsters. It sounds like word salad, but these are verbatim things that have been said to me at bars. So I'm done with Joe Rogan.
Word salad. I like
That's
that.
disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, Jacob Peterson believes that, the ideal for us as human beings to follow is lobsters.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you just can ignore the bonobos who are all about peace and love and just being happy with each other. I mean, come on, our closest cousins. But no, Joe Rogan shouldn't be fired.
No.
He may be an idiot. He may be, controversial opinions, but, this is America, free speech and all.
And I
I
would like
concur.
to intercede just before Jane goes off for the very latest lobster on YouTube. You need to go to Leon the lobster. Everybody who has been to see Leon goes back to watch and waits to the next one. Leon the lobster. Yeah, back to I just so you know, right? If you're driving along in the car, make a little note about Leon the lobster. Evo, should Joe Rogan be fired?
No, of course not.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was going to be Jane. Now you've interrupted, Evo.
I feel like you made a point here. Just saying. She said. Next. No, I don't have a whole bunch to say, but I will say this. Poor you. This is what they talk about at the bar.
This is what a lot of dudes. Maybe I'm attracting the wrong.
The only time I hear, I don't know. Like maybe that's their go-to. Like, I sound smart. I'm like, because everybody I know does not talk about this. Maybe in passing, everyone, did you see what the new thing he said? Blah blah blah. Stupid asshole. They'll do that, but we don't really, commiserate over Joe Rogan's latest exploit. Anyway, no. The only time I ever hear about it is when Newsfeed has come up with something new, and I'm like, Joe Rogan, swipe. No, it's not Tinder. Well, isn't that what you say? You're like, swipe left. What? Yeah, no, I don't really have anything to say, but I agree. I don't think he should be canceled.
Evo.
No, I mean, of course not. Not that canceling thing pisses me off. India Ari started it, right? And now, she collected, actually Neil Young was the first one, but she collected all the racial slurs that he used and edited them together. But I feel like you guys said, freedom of speech is freedom of speech. He will lose gravity on his own, because for many years now, I've listened to him since the very beginning of the Joe Rogan podcast, when there weren't many podcasts around, and our choice was extremely limited. There were like 10 podcasts. So I was listening to him regularly, and little by little, I stopped listening to whenever he had guests. There were MMA fighters and stand-up comedians. Not because they weren't interesting, because they were saying the same thing over and over again. So after the 20th guest, there was a stand-up comedian. After maybe the 10th guest, there was MMA fighter.
I just got to toss in there the hunters, because the hunters were the
Oh God, yes, the survivalists, yes. So they started becoming repetitive, and he himself doesn't do. So this is like maybe 40%, maybe 60% actually of his podcasts feature those kind of people. They're just boring to me. And then his appeal, I feel, could be as a comedian, as a former comedian. The problem is he's aggressively unfunny. He's always been extremely unfunny. His stand-up act is horrible, absolutely horrible. You'll be hard-pressed to find a single punchline that's worth laughing. He's not interesting as a comedian. He's not imaginative. He's not unexpected. His language is not that rich. His comedic vocabulary is not good. And so that's another problem with him. And then as an interviewer, he is not good because he always agrees with the person he interviews.
That's because he's getting like-minded people on. Everything is like
not necessarily.
Really? Oh well, I mean, I can't say for real.
So when he gets liberal people, he tends to agree with them as well.
It's impossible to tell what he thinks.
He comes across as a spineless, it's convenient in the moment for him to agree with whatever the point of view is, and he does most of the time. Very, very rarely he would, actually question somebody that he's invited, one of his guests, but that doesn't happen often, and so it annoys me is not interesting to me anymore. I quit listening to him. He moved to Spotify, got $100 million contract, and then became even more uninteresting.
So should I check it out just because I've never listened to one before?
He has occasionally people like Dr. Rhonda, and so occasionally he would have a legitimate scientist that has a ton of information that's valuable, and those are interesting. His research is very superficial. So his own opinions, he does research, but it's very surface, and it's not to be trusted. It's like he's a Wikipedia professor, Yeah. What Alena said is so true. It is shocking how many men in their 20s, that's all of their information about everything in the world comes from Joe Rogan. It's shocking. It is shocking and annoying and discouraging. And these people were kind of indoctrinated into his very, very superficial philosophy.
So does that make Spotify, who is sponsoring him and paying him a ton of money, the Fox News of the younger generation?
I don't think so. No.
Because Spotify, it started as just a music streaming. That was their original.
Yeah, but it's changed. Now they're
Well,
paying
they've added
somebody to
podcasts.
put out right-wing, sometimes strong misinformation.
Well, I would say that Spotify could probably strengthen their codes of conduct and probably throw in some disclaimers to podcasts that have information that
And how are they different from Fox News then?
Well, it's the same thing, but they both have their right to.
They're both entertainment networks.
Yeah,
they are.
And you have to recognize it for that. But this is America. They have the right to throw that out there, and the way you counter it is more speech.
He doesn't.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah, he doesn't pretend to inform. He says, don't listen to me. I'm a meathead. I don't know anything. Yeah, but the problem is responsibility comes with this audience, with hundreds of millions of people listening to you. We even we do a little bit of research, and we only have one listener. But it's still a responsibility. There's some responsibility that comes with. He's got hundreds of millions of listeners, and there is a little bit of responsibility that comes with it, don't you think? And your obligation is to yourself. Like, if I had that kind of a platform, I would be nervous about providing bullshit information. He's not. He doesn't care, and he's raking it in. He's making a lot of money.
Does he provide a lot of sources and stuff when he does his podcast? Because I've wanted to listen to him. He's been on my list to listen to for a while, but the times that I do, I'm like, what you were saying before, it didn't seem like it was all that informative.
Yeah, he will provide sources. So I'm going to just kind of piggyback on what Ivo said, because I used to also listen to him like he was just part of my day. I'd wake up and see what the latest on Joe was. Not because I found it sorry, Ivo's looking at the intro that we all were forced to suffer through before he got here. I used to listen to him all the time. Not that I found him particularly enlightening, because I don't, but I did find him entertaining for some of the same things that Ivo is pointing out. But like, it seems like his position has become entrenched on these certain things. So the MMA thing, the box or the hunting / survivalist thing, and the COVID thing, and the shows that involve those, like, literally have become less and less tolerable, and really just kind of a platform to spout off whatever the quack science you can find is kind of what he does. So there's, I personally make a difference between pre-Spotify Joe and, well, I'll say it even differently than that. Let's say 2015 Joe versus pre-Spotify Joe versus what you got now. And whereas before, he would have, like, what really got me into listening to Joe Rogan was, like, he had Neil deGrasse Tyson on his show, and Neil came on the show to try to debunk the moon landing is fake conspiracy. And it wasn't necessarily that Joe had facts, but Joe had this, for me, entertaining way of speaking to Neil without discounting the science, but just kind of questioning it in a way that was frustrating for Neil deGrasse Tyson because it wasn't like his questions weren't necessarily dumb, but they didn't defy explanation. So this is kind of like my introduction to Joe Rogan, and that sort of seed of like, hey, this conspiracy stuff is fun has really just kind of become his lane. And just not, it's like if you've got a brain, it's not that fun to listen to anymore. So
he's huge on the JFK conspiracy and on the moon landing conspiracy. He's huge, and he's got all the crap information that you can find on the internet about the Van Allen radiation, all this bullshit. And he showered Neil deGrasse Tyson with it. At some point, I loved Tyson's response. At some point, he said, "You know what? I give up, but I'll just tell you this." There were 400,000 human beings involved in the moon landing. 400,000. It's been 50 years since then. We cannot keep a secret between three people. There's no way 400,000 people kept this incredible secret for half a century.
Isn't that funny? Because it cracks me up when somebody takes something that is like conspiracy theories and people who push them and they break it down in such a simplistic way that where you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Like there was this one interview that NPR had done with a mathematician, and she was doing a statistical analysis of why and how and hey, this is why people believe it. She broke it down in such a way. These people, well, human nature, nobody wants to be wrong. Okay, nobody
True.
likes to be wrong. So these people, they start at the conclusion. They pick a conclusion.
Yep.
And then they start grasping. And the more people that butt them out, the more ridiculous the straws they're grasping at become, just so they can revolve around, I'm right, see, here it is. I was like, God, I love that.
So there's this book. There's this collection of books on they're called like the Complete Guide to Murphy's Law. So the book starts with whatever can go wrong does go wrong, and they just have all of the little quotes and sayings that people like screw up, like the Peter Principle, like everybody rises to their own level of incompetence in their like all of that stuff's in there. And there's one that like for me is conspiracy theories like encapsulated. It is complex problems have simple, easy to understand wrong answers. And that is essentially like when you're talking about a conspiracy theory, that's for me like what's going on. Like somebody has misunderstood some like basic underlying premise, and this was essentially like the crux of the first conversation I listened to, which was Joe Rogan and Neil deGrasse Tyson, where Joe Rogan had, like Ivo said, like this really, really facile understanding of like a couple of scientific principles, and it's super frustrating for somebody that actually knows what they're talking about to try and like disabuse him of whatever like confusion
like
that
the
he
exposure
has.
on the photographs. Well, the reason why you don't see any stars in the photographs on the moon is because, well, the moon is a bright surface. It's the reason why it's so bright in the full moon, and or the one
the
that
shadows, the casting of the shadows, and the position of the sun. And
the one that always gets me is they say that in 9/11 the fires weren't hot enough to melt steel. Well, that you don't have to melt the steel. All you have to do is heat it enough so that it bends and fails. That's as soon as that happens, well, then down goes the building.
Yeah, but
The late great Zig Brzezinski once said to Morning Joe's guy, he said, "You know what? Your lack of understanding on this subject is so small that it's almost embarrassing to be here with you."
Yeah.
Let's move on to another subject.
Well, we didn't ask Fernando and Andrei.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought Fernando joined in.
Yeah, you cut me when Evo arrived, and now like I was taking a nap, and no, I mean I agree with Evo's perspective on that. Like we all see this, but I don't think like Spotify at the end, like it's not about fired because he's not employed. They just put money to get full exclusivity. However, I mean, there is just a gray area. Like I'm in favor of freedom of speech,
Yes.
and I came from a place where government censorship occur.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not on airwaves. I mean, I think there is some people, like some shows that even watch it disagree with their point of views, like Bill Maher, like he's Islamophobic.
Yes.
I mean,
He is.
he was pretty racist too. Now he kind of like tried to catch back on that,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the end, like sometimes there is good guests, good panel, and you can filter the guy. And if he annoys me enough, I'm gonna even jump off of that. And I think Joe Rogan by itself is kind of redeeming himself. At least in the latest episode, this blew my mind. But he's a bad interviewer. I agree with you guys on that. Like how lame he is interviewing a person.
Yeah.
But
He drifted to the right, like Lewis said, after 2015. And it's kind of organic, guys. The right audience is much more vociferous, much louder, and they give feedback all the time. Whereas the progressive audience, the left audience, they like something and they stay quiet. They don't yell, they don't scream, they don't reinforce as much as the right. So he little by little, pushed by his audience, by his audience enthusiasm, he moved little bit to the right, to a point where he's kind of a right-wing troll, even if he doesn't realize it. But you're right, he's entertaining. He's very entertaining.
and one more thing, I think like we should be careful, like when you create this kind of like censorship, you start create some alienation, and then he just gonna hang out and he gonna be only on that cloud of his bros, and that like the same
This
one.
is literally a daily conversation I've been having for the past few months.
One thing that's my
Literally.
biggest fear, and I heard that the military, that's I gonna create a big like wing on a subject here, but big concern here. So I heard that the military are firing personnel, firing the militaries because they want to make the vaccinated mandate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, making that, I think you're just gonna create rage, and they're like, extreme. If you see all those, the lone wolves, all those January 6th, their profile, former militaries, have shit tons of guns.
Maybe, but
I think
don't
it create,
know.
like
Military
where they
watch
go after they
vaccinations.
get fired. They're gonna join they're not gonna go join the left party. They're gonna where is the first white power branch to join. But that's all I have. Sorry,
No,
guys.
I know. It's funny because I've been. You guys can't see us
That's
here on the
why- that's
podcast,
why he was,
but
like,
I'm
waving in the air.
waving to get a chance to talk
thought it was
because
the
the
spice.
two things that you guys are talking about are exactly the point I want to make. Have you guys seen or followed the Jon Stewart comments about Joe Rogan? Jon
No,
Stewart
not at all.
I
basically
have not
said
seen his. No.
Jon Stewart has a show on Apple TV called the problem with Jon Stewart. I saw it. Yeah, and so about 3 weeks ago, he came on and he's doing a podcast while they're away from the office, and his co-host asked him what his take was, and he's like, "I'm a guy that had Rumsfeld on my show. I say engage with him instead of all this talk of cancel," and apparently the one time the progressives do get up and get in arms is when Jon Stewart says something they don't expect.
They don't agree with.
Yeah. So the pushback got so bad that the next week Jon Stewart had a conflict mediator on the show
Oh my goodness.
to ask what should I have done? Did I do the wrong thing? And the short take was, there are people that you should engage with, and there are people that you should not engage with. And if it's a person that at least seems to give the impression that they are open to discussing the idea and not just entrenched in a political position, you can engage with those guys. And the woman actually did say, Joe Rogan, for all intents and purposes, seems like the type of guy that you can engage with. And this was right after Joe Rogan made the bullshit apology, the first bullshit apology. And so that was probably why she was saying it at the time. But then, like literally, like within hours of making that apology, he posted some other piece of quack science, and this was before the India RE stuff came out. But yeah, the whole point was like, yeah, the question, if the question is should Joe be fired, like I think that's kind of a personal / corporate decision. If the question is like, should we be listening to Joe? Probably not. But I do think there can be some worthwhile stuff from bringing on people that will actually listen to him.
As the host, it is time to move on to another question.
Did you guys happen to watch the Joe Rogan show from the...
Did you hear about the stuff that he pushes? You know, his
Move on.
muscle builder stuff's really good.
And because I'm accused of ignoring people, and I have a little list of who I'm going to ignore.
I bet all the white people at the top of the list.
Yeah. I'm going to start with what's his name? No, not Andrei. Oh yeah, me. Fernando. Beards, Fernando. Why are beards such a big fad right now? Bearing in mind that I and number one son are the only people who aren't wearing beards.
Hey, I'm not wearing a beard.
Of the male.
Once again, selected.
All about the white beard for him.
And I have no idea if it was,
So why have you got one on? Why don't you shave it off?
I don't know. Now it's way more convenient and easy to trim. I don't go to a barber. I remember how annoying it was to shave, like, keep like sharp and clean all the facial hair.
Your neck all the time.
Yeah, like it's so easy. Like I do this in 5 minutes and less, and I think it's gonna remain forever.
Now, I'm
Disregarded.
deliberately going to come to the ladies in a minute. Right? I haven't forgotten you, but I want you to be able to have the last word. Chris rather walked into this. He said, it's easier to... Chris has big Victorian sideburns.
They're called mutton chops.
Mutton chops. But
Or sideburns.
he obviously shaves because underneath there's white skin.
I haven't actually shaved in about a year, but there's a little bit of stubble here. I use my little mechanical trimmer I let it go for 4 or 5 days, and then I just shut it to the because it's like Fernando said, it's kind of annoying. But
Is that why you have mutton chops?
I know I have mutton chops because I've always wanted mutton chops. Because I always liked. I was a.
They do look glorious.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I remember when I was looking into the Civil War years and years ago as a little kid, came across a picture of General Burnside, whose sideburns are sort of named for, and I thought those look really cool, and always wanted them. And when I finally got old enough to grow a full beard, and I used to have the mustache that connected the two, but there's a little spot right in between, right underneath my nose that won't connect, so it looks really stupid. So I shaved off the mustache.
Andrei, what about you? What do you think about beards? Would you have one?
Yeah, maybe sometime. I don't like beards, like, until you're out of college. I think it's weird. Especially if you can't fully grow one. Like Patrick Mahomes' mustache looks bad. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Dude,
But,
just scared off our one listener. Man,
I'll do it again and again. But I don't know, there's like, I think beards are cool sometimes. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do. I want to have a mustache at some point or a beard at some point, but only if I can fully grow one. I'm not going to
What kind of
half-ass it like
mustache?
Patrick Mahomes.
Like just a regular mustache or like
Handlebar.
handlebar?
I'm going to start out with like, a little small one, just kind of there. Yeah, just a little longer than that. Just a little
Adult.
wider.
Lewis, what about you? Why do you have a beard?
let me tell you all about my Santa fetish. No.
That is so disturbing.
You, Lewis.
No, I
Okay,
quite honestly,
so ladies,
I think it is a piece of decoration for the gentleman that can literally change the shape of your face depending on how you grow it, and you grow it like different ways and figure out what way most reflects the you that you want to project, and that's what you do. And that's basically it. It would be akin to me asking you, why do you wear button-down shirts? Like, does the notion of like wearing a banded pullover just not occur to you, or?
Because I've got class. Evo, what about yourself? Your beard sort of changes in size from time to time.
The magniloquent Lewis described it perfectly. I think it really is an attribute that you can use to add symmetry to your face. Usually, men have kind of a instinctual feeling of what kind of beard they want, and yeah, it's instinctual. Yeah, the style. It kind of evolves little by little until you find the right shape for your face, and it really helps your face often. It can make it thinner, it can make it wider depending on what you want, but also beards are a little more complicated. I feel like obviously it's part of Darwin's work. He has an entire chapter dedicated to beards. It's yes, you know that.
You're making this up, aren't you, as you go along?
I thought everybody knows that. No, that's an evolutionary device used by the human species, because he believed, and he had compiled as much evidence as he possibly could for this, but he believed that was a sexual appeal thing, and it helped procreation, and it helped. He found plenty of evidence that women found men wearing beards more attractive. You know why?
Those actors.
Because the beard shows up after puberty, and it's a sign of maturity, strength.
I wonder who did this study. Men.
Strength. Charles Darwin. I think Charles Darwin was a man and he had a beard. So,
Men basically found something that was easier to do and decided.
Before
to
you should know.
So,
I'm not going to say.
Seriously, scientifically, look at this, because this was a huge part of his work, and he really emphasized that it's a sign. So when the female is looking for a partner, for a mate, they were looking, especially way back, obviously, in prehistoric times, they were looking for strength, dominance, maturity. And the man that had more testosterone, the beard is a direct consequence of dihydrotestosterone, I think. But the more you produce, also the more muscular, the stronger you are.
Well, done, Evo. I feel even more
it's
out of
science.
place than I already did before,
What
because
I
I
want
do not
what
like
I want
beards.
before we go to the ladies.
It's a pretty good thing that human beings have free will and we can overcome our instincts.
I was able, in fact, to speak to some of the partners of the men who've just spoken, and without exception, the answer was, I wish he'd shave it off.
I can tell you for a fact that my wife
Jane.
wishes that I would shave it off.
Jane.
Well, I have to say, it's a good thing I have a constant inner monologue going on, because let's go back to Fernando. As soon as Fernando starts talking about how, it's just convenient, and I roll a collective eye roll, of course it is, you're a fucking man, and that's how that works, and let's just be even more slobby than we already are. And then we go over to,
I do shave my
you don't
armpit.
have to put any concealer on or mascara or anything. I just gotta comb my beard a smidge. I'm ready.
How would these guys feel if women just, all of them, stopped shaving their legs for like 5 years?
That's fine.
Not gonna bother me.
No, you would not say that on the beach. You
There's
guys,
not
I
a-
think
You
you
should say
full
our
of
leaders
hatred
more.
for
You
your
guys are
legs.
showing
So
us your
full of
boobs
hatred.
at the same time. Your legs don't matter at all.
How about if, you don't shave your armpits with the naked boob hanging there and
Not
your
a
armpits?
problem.
Again, not a
Not a problem.
I'm
Okay.
intrigued, because Alena has reached for her microphone a number of times.
I'm just waiting. I'm trying to wait for my turn, but I'm such a
Well, that
little
doesn't
kid
work
that
here.
I'm
You
like,
gotta go. You gotta hop in.
No, your turn. Eviscerate them.
well, I'm not a bitch. The question is how or why are beards very popular right now?
That's
Dad
true, yeah.
attacked the evolutionary angle. I'm going from a cultural angle because I think a
followed it. I
cultural
didn't
angle.
attack
I think a cultural angle is more realistic, maybe even for Darwin. I don't know. I'm not going to attack Darwin because it's too much to deal. But I think culturally, I can understand how beards are in style right now. In a weird way, I think it's probably something very abstract that doesn't seem like it matters to us. Probably in high fashion, like 10 years ago, there were 6 or 7 incredibly popular male models who had thick beards. And now, throughout the culture, it's permeated that people are having like thick beards for a period of time. A similar thing happened with eyebrows. When I was a kid, having thick eyebrows was not cool for a woman. Then there were 2 or 3 high fashion models that got incredibly famous who had incredibly thick eyebrows, and suddenly women wanted thick eyebrows when before they didn't. So these high fashion people are probably the reason that we have beards as a trend. That's the why right now. Maybe you have an evolutionary why. That's my.
But it's also the high fashion is why women have to shave their legs and shave their armpits and
Oh, yeah.
dress the way they do and put makeup on. So
But see,
Yeah,
beards were always popular. There were
Always.
2 decades when beards were not popular. The 80s and I think the early 2000s where there was metrosexual trend going. But beards were always popular. In the 60s, they were popular 100 years ago.
Yep.
They were a sign of wisdom in ancient times. There was a thing called philosopher beard. The
They're a
most
sign of
successful...
making it easier for yourself to get ready in the
The
morning.
most successful thinkers,
This is like
the
and?
most successful thinkers had beards. Many pop stars like Jim Morrison, the Beatles wore full
The
beards.
Dos Equis guys too. Dos
I'm sorry?
Equis.
Dos Equis. You know, the beards were always popular. It's
Always.
not really, there was not an era when beards were not popular. And you look at some of the most famous scientists even and you know, dignitaries in any era. The only time they were not popular was ancient Greeks during the Alexander the Great. They went weirdly metrosexual for a while and it was considered cool to shave your beard, but that was for a very short period of time.
What was that movie? 1,000 Ways to Die in the West or A Million Ways to Die in the West? God, that mustache song, man, that was hilarious.
By the way, the pilots are not allowed to have beards. Pilots cannot have beards because of the external auxiliary oxygen mask that they're supposed to wear. It needs to fit perfectly, so they don't have. And I think firefighters, as much as they want to have beards, I don't think they're allowed to have beards.
Pandemics
Big
in
beards.
95 now.
Yeah, so some professions just you can't have beards. Soldiers.
Is this just research that you did for today, or is there a reason you know the entire history
I
of
didn't
beards?
have time to do research.
You have said
know why
two
you were
things
made
You
tonight.
went from like Alexander the
This
Great
table
to
looked like a
So if you-
1980s.
What?
Doing
Is that-
research
is
on
that
beards
true?
would be very strange.
Like-
But no, you just think about it. Think about all the times where there were beards. Like as you were talking, I tried to think of one decade. Like the 90s, we had the grunge, and everybody was having beards.
The
Yeah, the grunge here. Yeah.
Even in the 80s, particularly the late 80s when I started college and the early 90s, beards were still kind of a thing. Where although there was more goatees
Good point.
Some
and
mustache.
weird combinations thereof rather than the full beard,
Yeah.
but
But
some kind of facial
The
hair.
60s and 70s were all hippie beards, right?
Yep.
I mean, and you
So
think
where do you think the porn stash came from?
Yeah, and you think way and further back. Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Einstein had a beard. You know, everybody had a beard. Everyone, Che Guevara had a beard.
Santa Claus.
Hitler had a moustache. Churchill didn't, and look what happened to Hitler. So moving on.
I would like to
please.
say that the amount you guys make fun of Jeremy for talking about Churchill, this is the first time I've ever heard him say anything about Winston Churchill.
You should come over more to the show.
Let's
Andrei was waiting for this.
be saving that up. Good for you, Andrei. So I'm going to start with Andrei in the next question. A Russian skater takes or was given a banned drug, unfair to other competitors, but allowed to continue. Trans swimmer, ex-male, wins everything, unfair to others, say her teammates, but allowed to continue. Djokovic wants to compete but not abide by the rules and very nearly gets away with it. What is going on? Have we become a must not offend society?
Doesn't this kind of relate to the first question about cancel culture? And I mean,
I
in
don't
a
know.
way.
What do you think?
Well,
No, it's not fair
all right.
because the just in the last summer games, Shikari, can't think of her last name off the top of my head. Richardson was kicked out a week before the Olympics began because she smoked a little marijuana because she was dealing with the death of her mother. Marijuana is not a performance-enhancing drug. The Russian skater was tested in December, and we knew this, and she was still allowed to enter the Olympics. The racial implications of that are obvious.
Yeah.
As far as the transgenders, the number of transgender athletes is probably the number I could count on two hands in the entire world.
If you were a carpenter.
And as far as Djokovic is concerned, he knew what the rules were to get into Australia to compete. If he is such a baby that he would fake a COVID test and then go out and be amongst people to try to get in to compete, I mean, he's being childish. I mean, for me, all these people are being childish. I mean, let people do what they want to do, you know?
Well, it's an interesting question, though, isn't it? Because what I was saying is, I know it's not exactly the same thing, but to me, it's all related. Look, why do we give some people a pass and others just, you're done, off, gone, bye, you know?
Money.
So the question, are we being too, are the institutions tolerating
Are we
this
being
too much?
too woke? Why do we give people a pass?
A
Things
pass.
like that.
Yeah. I mean, this girl is 15, and I think if she was 20, they would not have let it skate.
Oh my God. It's like how lefty single.
I'm sorry, I had to do it.
I agree, Evo,
I had
that
to do it.
it's likely that she is not responsible for what
Yeah.
happened, that it's probably her coaches
Yeah.
and her handlers and her parents. But again, that just points to the whole system is if someone needs to be punished, then they're the ones who should be punished. It's unfortunate that she should get banned and not be able to skate, but she's 15. The next Olympics in 4 years, she can continue training and do it properly and win gold 4 years from now.
No, I think she
Where
did
is
it.
the Olympics in 4 years' time, Eva? Do you know? Winter Olympics?
The Winter Olympics, I think I think they'll be in Europe, in France, but I'm not 100%. So, yeah.
I'll go to the Winter
As far
Olympics
as
when
the-
it's in
Andrei's
Miami.
come round now. He's
As far
some
as the
thought.
performance enhancing drug thing goes, I don't know how 15-year-olds is she Russian?
Yeah.
I don't know how 15-year-olds in Russia get good at sports, but a lot of 15-year-olds in America have no problem doing that. So I don't think it was her parents or coaches or anything, unless it's
Lewis,
unless she's conservative.
are we giving people a pass because they're famous or because of money?
As a general rule, yes. That is exactly who we give our passes to. Which, again,
Influencers, that sort of thing. Those
if
sort of
you
people.
have money or fame, yes, you get a pass. That's just kind of how it's always worked. So I'm not sure how that question relates to the first question is, or the initial question, are we becoming a must not offend society? Because we've always given those two groups of people a pass.
Yeah, but the thing that gets me here is that it's clearly her handlers and the Russian nation that has forced this to happen, and she should have been taken out of the competition because that's the only way to send a message to Russia that this will not be tolerated.
Yeah, but we don't want to send that message to Russia because they have power and influence.
Yeah, but Russia is only one of how many countries on the world, and if the rest of the world says
That's why we should have sent that message anyway. Yeah.
Is the question on what we should have done, or what,
Yeah.
what happened happened?
And the thing is, they are
Both.
manipulating their
Well,
young skaters in very unhealthy ways for the skaters. This should have been absolutely, yeah.
Well, for me, the bottom line principle is we need to stand with our principles. If we say this is what we are going to do, then that is what we are going to do, and it should apply to everyone, regardless of skin color, wealth, fame, gender, you name it.
Yeah, it'd be great if our country was good at that.
I agree. We're
We need to
slowly
practice a little.
slowly progressing towards that, but we are progressing that way, and we just need to keep moving on.
Yeah, and I've been reluctant to chime in because on this show, it's we're frowning at people that actually do research for the show. It's frowned upon, and I was afraid that Alena's going to accuse me of preparing for this, but the reason because it's going to be obvious now the drug. It's obvious because I had to prepare for another show on Sunday on the same topic. So she took trimetazidine, which is a drug used for heart conditions by really, really older people. And this drug increases blood flow to the heart muscle. And in doing so, it increases your vital capacity, the blood
Endurance.
flow, endurance, and everything. So it was kind of a laughable excuse that the Russian Federation came up with. They said that she drank water from her grandfather's cup. And that's how she ended up with the drug in her system. But the traces of these drugs are so significant in her that there is no way, and it's ridiculous excuse. And here comes the big problem, which you pointed out about the double standard. There were other athletes that were caught with this exact same drug in their system, and they were banned.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah, another Russian, a Chinese athlete, and so you clearly have a double standard because she's so incredible, because she's so dexterous, because she is such an athlete, and because she's so young. They felt obligated to use a double standard and allow her to compete. And I don't know if that's right. When it comes to the trans athletes, that's a very complicated topic. But like you said, the percentage is minuscule, and it needs further research. And I don't know. I mean, when a swimmer wins everything that is recently started transitioning, and it's just annihilating all the female-born competitors. There's got to be some kind of other. Why don't we have separate Olympics and separate tournaments for trans athletes, where they'll be all on the same?
Yeah, but do we want to go?
Trying to
I
do
think
away
all
with that
be
whole
meddling.
separate
One
but
comment
equal
that I'd
thing.
like to make about that is that well-known young lady, recently become a lady, Michelle Phelps. She used to be
Michael.
Michelle Phelps.
Well, now it's Michelle.
Michelle Phelps, who used to be quite a famous swimmer,
Yeah.
is thinking of competing as a female Olympic swimmer.
Yeah, and so is Michaela Tyson.
I can tell you what Michael Phelps. I can't actually tell you what Michael Phelps said because it's not appropriate for a broadcast. But there's going to come a point, isn't there, when lots of sympathy for people who want to trans one way or another. No question about that. But
question about that.
well, you're just weird.
That's the whole point. Like, honestly, if there was more sympathy, I don't think there would be this big of a controversy about
There
it.
is a huge controversy
That's my point.
in that girl's school, for example.
I know. You just said the same thing. Can I come in with something
Alena's
radical?
turn.
I got a radical solution to all of this. I have some
Here we go,
radical
radical.
ideas.
Yeah.
One, who cares about drugging, doping in sports? They're all going to do it forever.
They're all going to do it. And some people are going to get caught. Some people aren't going to get caught. Some people are going to be performing while doped. Some people are going to be performing while not doped. How about everybody can dope? And everybody can dope when they play drugs, sports. Everybody can dope when they play sports. And if you do the test, if you do the blood test and you have no drugs and you win, you get extra gold. Because you beat all the doped up people. Second.
I can support that idea.
The very conservative person right now, their response is, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, no, hold on.
Second thing, transgender athletes should compete in their gender category for what their gender is. And how about sports no longer segregated by gender at all? Just everybody play sports together.
I hated that
Just play
dodgeball day.
sports together.
That was horrible.
And these are my radical, crazy leftist ideas.
I don't know. Alena.
All
No
right.
wonder you haven't got any friends.
Let's move on. Another question that came in. Keep the schools open for the kids' sake. Should we not also ask? Oh, but should we not also be asking, but what about the teachers' personal health and safety?
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised.
Yes, we should be asking, or
Yes, we should be asking about the teachers and the administrators and the janitors and their safety in terms of schools. I mean, it boggles my mind in terms of how the wealthiest nation, or excuse me, one of the wealthiest nations on the planet can't retrofit our frickin' buildings to move air out of them at a rate that prevents COVID from building up inside. It's just a mere fact of spending some dollars, and you can get the kids back in schools without masks pretty well.
And also how much money they already got from the federal government on that. Remember, like, it was a lot of money funneled to the schools, like, from the beginning.
for no particular reason, let's go to Jane.
What do you think, Jane?
What do you think, Jane?
I remember when, do you all remember when we got
Back in the
shut
day.
down? And, online schools and all of these cries of, how am I supposed to work and I can't take care of my kids and watch their education and yada yada. And I thought to myself, finally, we are going to be respected the way we should. Because bitches, you couldn't do this without us. That's what I thought. And now here we are. And
You're
what
not a
and
teacher.
what are we getting?
You're only speaking not as a teacher. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now what are we getting? Anything but the most ugliest attitudes. We're going to reshape everything. You haven't done anything that is worth blah, blah, blah. Social, emotional, no, there is no. You keep it out, just the facts. Oh, but you're harmed by the pandemic and you need social, emotional. And you want to know why people are leaving? Well, just turn on a board meeting. We're going to ban books from the shelves. Do you see how hypocritical that is? You're saying that you don't want these kids to read this. Wait. You don't want your kid to read this. Now, aren't you giving my kid the ultimatum, what you're doing right now? We don't live in North Korea. We don't live in China. We live in America. You don't have the right to tell people to fucking read. Okay, I'm done. For now.
Kathleen.
She said it extremely well. Yeah. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on here. People don't want their kids at home because they want to be able to do whatever they want. And they want the teachers not to be in there teaching them what they should be teaching them, but to act as babysitters and get COVID out of it. They're just, horrible.
Lewis.
Well, I don't think the problem starts with teachers. I think we got a whole half of society that still thinks healthcare is a privilege and that you have to work hard to the point of putting yourself in the poorhouse in order to be healthy, or you're not working hard enough. So the notion that, like, there's a whole half of our society that doesn't seem to care about the kids or the teachers or the administration or the staff, like, is not surprising. I don't.
They only care about the kids when there's some issue they want to push.
No, they don't care about the kids even then. The kids are a useful
They're
bargaining
using them
chip.
as- yeah.
They
Yeah.
care about them
As
because
their
they can
staging
use them.
point.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So yeah, I don't know that this gets solved for this pandemic or the next one, because I think that the next one will be right around the corner. If there's even a break between this one and the next one, I don't think we're gonna have an answer for like what happens with the kids and the teachers until everybody gets on the same page that like healthcare is a right.
And who was it who said earlier? I think it was Lewis who said that, or maybe Evo, who said something about how it is driven by a minority of people who have a loud voice,
That's
who
Nietzsche.
rah, and all the majority of people who are shaking their heads, going, "This is so." Stand up, start saying something, fight back. This is ridiculous.
They are. Part of the problem is that the media really only highlights the real nasty, attention-grabbing statements, and you don't hear the more moderate voices.
I heard today. Did anybody else hear that Indiana? I'm not sure if it was just a district or like the whole state, but Indiana had started filtering out opting out sheets for Black History Month. You want your child to opt out? You sign this sheet, and you're done. Yeah.
Opting out of what?
Learning about
They
history.
don't want to learn about it. They don't want to write the
I thought you
paper.
meant just like the month.
No, I mean, sure, why not? I like you don't writing a paper about it. Don't want to do it. Projects.
They want to
nah.
censor history. I mean, it's basic Stalinism right off the bat. Don't teach the facts.
To be fair, it can be a real downer for white people to hear about what they did to black people.
It is. It's a huge downer. But you know what helped me? Minor threat. That's what helped me.
Right, and I was like, and
I felt
go,
bad,
what's wrong
and
with
I
a little
tried to
shame and
become
humility?
A better person.
Trying to
for
gain
it.
some empathy for somebody else.
They learn about the upstanding.
I learned it in Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. That's why I first learned about that.
Yeah.
So basically, if I'm a Latino kid, I can opt out of learning about the founding fathers, right? Because isn't that kind of the
Doesn't
same
work that way. It should, but it doesn't work.
What
that
I really
way.
want to do is, if January 6th was legitimate political protest, I want to go put my feet up on Mitch McConnell's desk and smear feces all around Ted Cruz's office.
Andre, you're still in high school. Do you have any thoughts on COVID and how it affects teachers?
I don't know. Some of my teachers don't care at all. Oh yeah, my intro to law teacher got COVID. He's a German teacher who picked up an extra class, so it's really easy because he doesn't know what he's doing. He got COVID. But yeah, like a lot of my teachers don't care. Some of them do. Well, I don't know. I like going to school. I want to keep going to school. I don't know. Whatever.
Because being locked down sucked, right? I mean, you hated it, yeah?
Not really. I mean, I don't know. It was a lot easier.
Well, yeah, they stopped making people try. It was amazing.
Yeah, I know. But
You know?
But he's got a lot of
I don't know.
friends. He's popular.
Everyone uses it. Everyone like my age uses it as an excuse, but I don't think most people my age think it was as bad as they say, because they just want to be like, "Oh, it sucked. Can you make my class a little easier or whatever?" Like, I don't know. I thought it was pretty easy for me, and like, I wasn't completely like locked down pretty much at all. So like, my life was still kind of going on. And then I just had online school occasionally.
Dad?
Very uneasy for me because I'm going to work, and what's the people that go to work was first, not the first responder, was like the front line. Like I was still need to go to work without a vaccine on the equation, and I keep getting calls for my kids missing classes, even they were in-house with electronic internet up and running because I'm only
Push the button.
so and I keep getting complaints. They're like all their stats went so downhill, but then I was checking every other kid was going way bad. So I don't know, it was like what it was like. I mean, when a coop, like all the kids don't want to do anything, so I stopped caring. So my reaction was just hang up and okay, don't call me school this anymore. Have a good one. But yeah, it was didn't bother him much.
Yeah, I didn't care at all. Well, the teachers were like, online school. Like at the beginning, they told us it didn't really matter much. Like it, I don't know. They told us like the grades wouldn't matter because it'd be hard. So I was like, okay.
Yeah,
and I still got to play football.
Cushioned kids.
Yeah.
Now it's like a rude awakening going back to reality, and no wonder they're having social emotional problems.
Right,
They have to
let's
think
get-
again.
We're going to move on to the last one. Before I understand we do have sponsors tonight, so this is a quick one. Put your hands over your ears if you don't like swearing. Just for 2 words. Are we ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Fuck off. So I've said it. F off can be a very satisfying comment. And how can we tell another to FO and gain the same satisfaction without actually saying FO? How do you tell someone to...
Are you asking how to be passive aggressive?
Yes, basically. And I know you're...
An Englishman asking how to be passive aggressive. Interesting.
With all due respect.
So we talked about Joe Rogan's bullshit apology. You know, he said fuck off to everyone by apologizing, but the way he apologized was classic. He said, I'm terribly, terribly sorry that you feel this way.
Yeah.
That is a classic fuck off, politely, incredibly
There's another classic that Southern ladies have perfected. Bless your little heart.
bless your little heart.
Yes.
Okay,
In other words,
so-
you idiot, you.
Alena, coming from your doctorate studies on this sort of thing, what's your view?
Doctor? I'm an undergraduate. I guess if you said
I
that
was just
theory's
trying to, you know-
technologically useless. You're epistemologically unsound.
Oh, right. I better write that down.
That was rambunctious.
Instead of you are epistemologically
You're
unsound.
completely, yes.
I really feel like that should be your like online name from this point on.
Yeah.
It's that'd be accurate. My online person.
Lewis, how do you tell someone to off-ski without actually using the words?
I don't
And
know
get
that
the same satisfaction out of it.
I don't know that I get satisfaction out of telling people to F off. I genuinely don't know because like I'm reading the question and I'm thinking like I don't know that there's anybody that I would not say F off to my ex-wife. Like today. I still wouldn't do it. Like I just don't think I get the Sorry, I got some volunteers for telling my ex to F off. But no, this question literally made my brain hurt because I couldn't.
Well, and it's situational, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whatever happens, there's
can
always
either-
an appropriate response, but
You can either say fuck off or you can come up with that, witty rejoinder that just, devastates them. That's why I like my wife's. If I say something to her, she just goes, so?
I got in terrible trouble one time when I was working in Miami in systems analysis, and they had hired somebody who was absolutely and totally useless, and he got joy every day out of going and pestering other people with completely pointless stuff, and so one day he came in and was about to interrupt my work, and I said, "Oh, bugger off." Mm. I'd lived in the UK. And I knew that was not a nice thing to say.
Which state was that in?
It's in Florida.
Florida. So now that guy is the governor, Ron DeSantis.
Possibly. He complained all about how I told him to bug off because he didn't understand bug off.
bless his little heart.
Yeah, bless his little heart. He got fired not long after that because he was clearly there looking for an excuse to sue them. Yes. But it was just so bugger off is in this country they don't realize it as quite as rude as it is. So it works.
Yeah.
Fernando.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. I'm sorry. No,
I was just going to piggyback because mine is very English in nature as well. Well, the first thing I thought when I read the question was, well, Elizabeth Bennet did it to Mr. Darcy, and man, she stung. Do you guys, know the part where she tells him off?
Yeah, what did she say?
And I quoth, from the moment I met you, your arrogance and conceit, your selfish disdain towards the feelings of others made me realize that you were the last man in the world I could ever be prevailed upon to marry. And I was like, damn, girl. Ouch! In other words, yeah. And we're in for fuck off. So mine is, I stole from Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. Jog on. I say that all the time. So jog on, I say it all the time, and everybody's like, okay, like, what is that even? I didn't even do the jog on. Yeah.
Well, Fonz used to say up your nose with a rubber hose.
Hey, just fuck off is not like original anymore. There's so many new, like eat a bag of dicks is very popular.
What a great saying!
There's
Chris,
much more
Had a coffee mug with it on there.
Do you have a way of telling someone to off ski?
And like I said before, it's kind of situational. It kind of depends on what they've said to me. If I'm going to come back with a more witty come back with a more witty rejoinder rather than just fuck off, although I'm kind of partial to just fuck off.
Fernando, down in Brazil, what do people do for when they want to tell someone to off ski? What?
Vai se fuder.
Vai se fuder.
And that's actually, I use that. So they're not gonna understand, but I'll take my rage off. But I mean,
But you do it with different inflection rates. Like,
Vai se fuder. Yeah.
I was once told by a colleague, a guy I was at school with, so not a schoolboy, Chinese boy, how to tell someone to fuck off in Chinese.
How is it?
I can't. It's something like Falawang.
I wish my wife would tell me this, but she doesn't want to tell me these things because she doesn't want to ruin her reputation.
It does. Well,
I have not learned any. The only one I've learned.
There was Malawang, which was Monkey King, and Falawang, which is King of the.
Mm-hmm.
But I have probably got the pronunciation wrong.
Yeah, because
and I'd have to go in the corner with your wife for her to tell me exactly how to.
She did tell me one. Although I can't remember it, unfortunately, because it's basically the equivalent to asshole, which is you call somebody a turtle butt.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I just in English, turtle butt.
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
turtle butt.
My favorite, though, is the Chinese term for bullshit, which is fei hua, which literally means empty words.
Fei Hua.
Fei hua.
Well, that's an interesting little thing. Andre is looking at me as if to say, I want to say something. Of course.
Well,
So you go ahead. You can go ahead, boy.
okay. I personally, being an amazing football player, especially for my age, especially after transferring to our rival high school, I get a lot of hate, surpringly.
It's a lot of specialties.
But that sometimes I find it like funny or cool that people care, because like they're talking about me, because if they talk about themselves, no one will listen. But that's a way I've told someone off before. Another thing that happens is I just don't care enough, so like I just won't even say anything, or I don't know, like, yeah, I just usually.
Yeah, but eventually they will hit a nerve, and when they do, you know what I mean?
But there are people who just don't.
I just do not care what they have to say at all.
Right.
So I just, like, it doesn't.
That is possibly the most effective thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, like, I don't know, and then they get really mad, and there's nothing. They're like,
Yep.
Oh, well, what? Like, they. Okay. Yeah.
So we've learnt a little. What
They're
was
not
it?
getting the attention they want.
What was it
Yeah.
again? Turtle butt. I think
Toot
that's
toot
one of the
butt.
best things I've heard for a long time.
I'll try to get me to tell her exactly how to say it. So next time I'm here,
I'll
I'll
give her a call later. Turkey butt, yeah. Right. Evo, do we
circled
have
it.
any sponsors tonight?
I don't know. I
Have
don't
we
know.
been
I,
sponsored by any turtle butts?
I think we do. All I know is it's an 8-track. The message is an 8-track. Our cassette player is
Here we
broken.
go.
they still make it.
Our
tracks.
reel-to-reel magnetophone is broken. Everything's broken. We have one 8-track player. And so we got the tape. It was delivered by a Roman legionnaire, hand-delivered. So, yeah, we're using really archaic methods. And I don't know what it is. We'll find out. There's a little message here. Well, that's a surprise, actually. It's a very pleasant surprise because it's a first. We've never before been sponsored by a United States Congresswoman. This is the first. Yeah, and it's a, believe it or not, it's a Southern Valley girl, if there ever was one, from Georgia's 14th Congressional District. Marjorie Taylor Greene herself.
I was hoping.
Excitement, guys! So exciting, Marjorie, the great Marjorie Taylor Greene. For the first time ever, we have a U.S. Congresswoman, and I'm going to just play the tape right now, play the 8-track, and let her speak to us. Right, that's it. I have a bad feeling about this.
Hello, y'all.
Click. Let's see. Well, howdy-o. It's me, Marjorie. Marjorie Taylor Greene is in the House of Representatives. Marjorie Taylor Greene, yay! I'ma sponsor you sorry piss-licking possum fucking liberals. People need to know the truth. They've been making fun of me because I criticized Nancy Pelosi's horrible gazpacho. I was like, totally. Oh my God. It was like the Nazi gazpacho. Why you're criticizing me? You know that bitch makes bad gazpacho. Totally. Oh my God. Like Alexander Hitler gazpacho. He probably put some sauerkraut in his gazpacho. Who does that? Like, oh my God, sauerkraut in the gazpacho. Those Germans are animals. And so are the liberals in Congress. They're like Soviet communists, totally. They want to put everyone in a Siberian goulash.
Oh my god, I was just looking for
Grody. Oh, imagine being neck deep in Siberian goulash. Stewing in that Siberian goulash. I'd be smelling like fucking paprika. That's what they're fixing to do. Put a law-abiding, Second Amendment, Southern folk in simmering Siberian goulash. Have you heard of that book, Goulash Archipelago? I ain't gonna read it. I ain't gonna read it, but I heard of it. It's written by Alexander Subzhinitsyn. Fucking liberals, oh my God. They say I'm a racist, as if. No, you racist, you hate Asian culture. Like, totally, you even hate Vietnamese soup. You hate it so much you started an organization called Antifo. You monster, shame on you. You hate Asian cuisine. You're trying to teach critical rice theory. Why are we even calling you woke Democrats? We should be calling you fry pan Democrats. You don't know what wokes are. Lips say I'm dumb. Whatever. As if I graduated in business something station. Totally. And in high school, I had a great GPS. And I was voted to have best laugh in the entire class. Before Congress, I was like a class CrossFit instructor. Oh my God, I had my own CrossFit gym. Totally, I know everything there is about CrossFit because I'm a Christian. I figured CrossFit out in like 2 minutes. Everyone at my gym was dragging giant crosses around. Oh my God, they were all CrossFit, I gotta tell ya. Like our Lord Jesus and Savior Jesus Christ. So CrossFit. Like totally. Those atheist Democrats don't believe in resurrection. Gag me with a spoon. Bless their little hearts. You hate Native Americans too, don't you, Democrats? Why can't Indians have an erection on the reservation? Why can't they have a resurrection? Selfish assholes. And that bitch, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She ain't even real American. She from someplace in the Middle East, Puerto Rico. Gag me with a spoon. That guy Puerto Rico is washed out. He hasn't had a hit since leaving La Vida Loca. And Ilhan Omar. She says I'm a fry short of a Happy Meal. Whatever. Why don't you go back to your country, Sommelier? What a shithole. Never want to go to Sommelier. Everyone probably fucking Sommelier. Everybody probably sipping on stinky red wine and mumbling about fucking penance. Gag me with a spoon. Oh, those liberals, they're elitists. Those Cabernet pissing Democrats. They're trying to indoctrinate our children. Animals. Indoctrinate? What will happen if all our children are doctors? Like, who'll be fixing the cars?
Creative therapists.
Who'll be fixing the cars and mining for coal and flipping the meat at the Longhorn Steakhouse? Who? What if I don't want my son to be a doctor? What if I want him to work on Wall Street as a hedgehog manager? Somebody's got to be managing those hedgehogs in New York, or they'll be running wild on the streets and climbing up our great statue of puberty. Totally. I hate me some elitist indoctrinating Democrats. I'm gonna propose a new legislation to make all schools like my home where books are banned. But movies are allowed. I like movies. As long as there's lots of rednecks in the movies and dragons. People say I am both. I like dragons, especially grand dragons, if you know what I mean. I'm even fixing to watch that famous movie, The Dragon with the Girl Tattoo. Who doesn't want to see a dragon with a girl tattoo? That's right, liberal maggots. I'm a fire-breathing, gun-shooting, conservative dragon bitch. Totally. You better watch out. By the way, I support the Canadian truckers and the right to get the Rona. Those Canadians are great Americans. We should listen to them and their fearless blue-collar leader, Trucker Carlson. They love me too. They see me and chant, "Hot Southern Mama. Look at how CrossFit she is. MTG, MTG, MTG." And I was like, totally, oh my God. 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 All together, I was like, totally, oh my God. I was like, totally, oh my God. I was like, totally, oh my God. That's it. Thank you, Roger.
All that remains is for me, Jeremy Taylor, to thank our team tonight. Ivo, Kathleen, Fernando, Lewis, Andrei, Chris, Jane, and Alena. We want to thank Neil Rasmussen for doing our producing and engineering. And what else we want to do? We want to remind you that you can pick these podcasts up on Facebook and places like that. What else do I want to say? Do I want to say anything else? Always a joy. Always a joy, Mr. Evo. I don't know where you get the sponsors from, but thank you, because it enables us to
keep going.
To keep going, for me to drive the sort of car that I do. You know, it's just totally wonderful.
Yeah,
but
it
anyway,
keeps the
ladies
lights
and
on.
gentlemen, boys and girls, you've been listening to another Wednesday Night Undressed.